Buongiorno a tutti, welcome everyone. I will just introduce this kind of measure that the department is starting. I'm responsible for the commission, for the delegate of the director for financings, together with some colleagues, Professor De Michelis, Osia, Baragna, Vitale and Copuzzo, so we are a group. And we, among the measures that this commission has to do, one of these, actually, I think the most important one that we are planning to do is to increase the participation of the members of the department at every level to the application to projects, to financing projects. Of course, there are a number of projects, European projects, and actually this is one of these, but directed to PIs, to collaborative projects. Of course, we have already a lot of services from RIMI dedicated to the ERC, because it's the one that they are pushing a lot. But there are a number of other measures that are, in our opinion, underrepresented. And also some trainings are not necessarily the way that a researcher wants to have them. So not only from the administrative point of view, but also from the scientific point of view, and all the steps that in the decision of applying to a certain measure are necessary and you have to overcome. So this was something that is not present in our department that we wanted to promote for you. Among the different potential projects, we wanted to start from Marie Curie, which is devoted to PIs, and there are also Marie Curie that are devoted to groups and consortia. But let's start from the most considered application, that is for PIs, and in general for young researchers. Because the main target is to create the will to participate to financing projects, of course, from young researchers that could go beyond the specific projects that every research group has. Maybe there is a group that applies a lot to European projects, but not to individual projects, or to national projects and not to European projects. And we would like, with a series of meetings, and this is the first one, to improve the participation of the members of the department, and of course the young ones are the most welcome, to apply to projects, because this could have a strong impact on your career. Winning a project is important for your career. So, and to start this measure that I hope will be successful, both in terms of applications and ultimately, of course, in terms of awards, we wanted to start with Dr. Federico Dattila, who was a recipient of Marie Curie project, and therefore who better than him, and of course also others, but we selected him, who better than him can explain to you how to be successful, or I see from the title, maybe both unsuccessful and maybe later successful, if this is the meaning of the title. So to try to follow that path that can drive you to the top of the mountains of the success. Okay, please, Federico.
Thank you very much,
Professor. Thank you very much.
If you want to get one of these chairs, feel free. I mean, I don't want you to stand for 30 minutes because the talk will probably last this time. You can also take one of those, okay? Yeah, so I'm very glad to have all these people here today. And indeed, I was very happy about the trust of the Commissione Progetti, so of Professor Ben Said, the support also of Francesca De Michelis, Dr. De Michelis, for like preparing all the presentation and thinking about the best approach I could have to explain you about my Marie Curie. And indeed, as was already pointed out, I'm going today to discuss about success and unsuccess, because you will see that was not always the best. And that's actually happened every time in science and research. There are a lot of failure. And today I also want to talk about failure. So first, I just want to present a bit myself so that you can know also what is my origin and what is my knowledge, because that was very important for the Marie Curie. And actually that is all about the Marie Curie, because the Marie Curie is all about the researcher to learn something new and also to bring something new to the place where it's going. So I'm actually from Turin, well, from a town close by Turin. I did the master in physics here at the University of Turin. In between, during the last year of the university, I also were in Sweden. I was in Sweden during the Erasmus, first Erasmus Plus and then Erasmus Friendship. And that was really helpful to get connection and also to learn a bit of English, because at the time I didn't know anything. Then, actually, at the very end of my Erasmus, I got the connection to start a PhD. And I got a Marie Curie PhD, because indeed, as was mentioned before, there are some Marie Curie projects that are for PI and postdoctoral researcher, but there are also other ones that are for consortia of university or research institute. And that was actually what I got. So I actually didn't get it myself. I just applied for one of the positions that my boss in ICQ won. So I was there, and I was actually doing for 3 years PhD that was all about DFT, so density functional theory. So theory, okay, theoretical chemistry. I was not doing any experiment. I did some experiment in this company, Avantium, during the PhD, but very tiny amount, 4 months. And during this period, I was also in Leiden, because this kind of Marie Curie project kind of force you to travel a bit. And that is also another important point of the Marie Curie in general, that they want people to travel across Europe, and that makes sense because it's a European call. So they also want to strengthen the approach of being European and not just Italian or French or Spanish. Then I stayed 1 additional year in Spain at the Institute of Chemical Research. I didn't mention before, but that was my place for a PhD. And then from March 2022, I was here at Polito. And that was also the time, a few months before, when I started applying for the Marie Curie, because I had the interest in coming back in Italy. I discussed with Professor Simelys Hernández, that is my current supervisor here, and he actually proposed me to try this Marie Curie. And I tried the first time in 2021 and then 2022. Then I waited a bit, and then finally, beginning of 2023, I got this Marie Curie with a project that is called Super CO2. Because another important point of European project is that you always need to find some fancy acronym of projects. And in this kind, I changed it a bit from the previous year, and it is Super CO2 indeed. And this time, I also included 2 secondments. And I will discuss a bit later what secondments are. EPFL, I will actually go there next Tuesday. So this was one of the last days here. And then also in a company, in a research institute of a Japanese company, Teijin, this time in Amsterdam. Okay, so let's see my experience with the Marie Curie. Indeed, as it was mentioned, I tried once, 2021. It was a completely different project, okay? It was about just Polito and Italy, because I just did a secondment and was in the NORA, company in Milan. You see, I submitted it in 12 October 2021. I was still in Spain at ICQ. I got the result on the 21st of March 2022. And the result, you will see, but were not positive. And then I worked to refine and to improve the proposal. That was submitted 14th of September 2022. I got the result beginning of January 2023. You see that there is quite some time in between, and you will soon understand why. And then 8th of June, I signed the grant agreement. That is basically an agreement between European Commission and Polito on my own contract. And then I started actually the Marie Curie 1st of March 2024. And here you see the results. So first one, 86.40, maximum is 100. I got the seal of excellence. That is kind of an award if you get more than 85. That kind of enable you to try different things, not the Marie Curie. Second year, I got 91.60, again, seal of excellence. This time I didn't get it, but I was in the reserve list. And I was the second one in my panel of chemistry. So I had some chance, and you can see that it finally work. I'll initially very quickly just discuss a bit about the bureaucracy of the call. I'm not the most entitled person to discuss that. As was mentioned before, there is Rimin, like, let's say, office here in Polito that is very expert in that, and like people that were supporting me at the time can now support you, like for what you want to do. But it's important just to talk about eligibility and also other like aspects. So first things, to apply for a Marie Curie, you need to have a PhD, okay? So it is not really important that you have the paper proving it, but you should have done the defense, okay? And that should happen by the date of the call. So not when you will start the project. So that means that whoever of you wants to apply for the next call, that is September 2025, needs to be a doctor by 10 September 2025. It can be resubmitted several times, as I did, but the previous score should be more than 70. And basically, they included this law, like in the past, just to kind of focus on the projects that are a bit excellent, because otherwise people could just try, maybe really bad projects, and that take time for the reviewers to consider them. It's important. It's not for, well, I will use this word, it's not the best, but all the researcher. I mean, there are other calls, also European, for very experienced researcher. That is actually for young PhDs. So you start, you need to be a doctor, and you can try until the 8th year after the PhD, not after. And indeed, within these 8 years, also career breaks do consider, or 6 leaves, okay? So that means that for some reason you stop working in academia and you go to an industry, then these 2 years of industry, they don't count because you were not in academia. Then there are 2 types of calls. One is the European, the other one is the global. I'll start with the European, that is actually my own project, okay? So European, everyone can get it, no matter the nationality. You need to do it in Europe. So it can be either in Europe, so member state, or associate country, for instance, like United Kingdom. Associate country are, let's say, not anymore European, as in the case of UK, but they decide to put some budget on this call. So they partially pay for like the research so that they also get some money back for, let's say, the researcher that they win the call. It can last 1 or 2 years. Almost all the projects are 2 years, also because you will see there are a lot of good conditions, so it makes sense to have it at least for 2 years. And important, there is the mobility rule. So you cannot do a Marie Curie in a place where you have been for more than 10 months in the last 3 years. So in my case, even if I was Italian, I could come here just because I was not here in Polito for more than 10 months within like the last 3 years from the call, okay? For instance, if I failed my second call, I could not try anymore with Polito because I was already in Italy for more than 10 months, okay? So let's say this doesn't apply for Polito for all of you. I mean, if you're here in Italy for more than 10 months, then you can try this one in September. But there is another one instead that may be of interest, and that's the global postdoctoral fellowship, okay? That can be a bit longer, up to 3 years. That is for European researchers or people that have been living here for more than 5 years. And basically this rule is simply because they want to force Europeans or people that are, let's say, committed to stay in Europe to go outside Europe, learn something new, and bring it back to the European, to Europe, okay, to the European countries. So that means that you stay 1/2 years in, outside Europe. So that means USA. That can be also Switzerland in this case, because Switzerland is not anymore an associate country. And then you come back, okay? You can come back to Polito or to any other like European institution or associate country, because you give back what you learn abroad. And here the mobility rule apply for the first place where you go. So that means that if you want to do the global and go to the USA, you shouldn't have been to USA for more than 10 months in the last 3 years. But doesn't matter about Polito, so you can freely come back to Polito, okay? Even if you have lived in Italy for all your life, okay? So this one can apply to all of you. Well, you need to be European citizen or long-term resident, so you should have lived in Italy for more than 5 years. Proposal, okay, that's again bureaucracy. So that is what you need to send to the European Commission for evaluation. First thing is just bureaucracy, literally. So you need to fill a form online with like the name of the institution. You need to write there like where have you been in the last 5 years, because they want to check that you haven't been for more than 10 months in the very same place, and many other things. That is just bureaucracy, but that needs time. So don't do it in the last 3 hours because you will not manage. Okay, usually it's something that you do it at the very beginning because it's just bureaucracy. You don't need much of your mindset, you just need time. Part B1 is the important one. I will focus on this one along the talk because here you have maximum 10 pages. You do have a template, so that is a bit different than the year C. You have some guidance. 5 pages, so 50% of the weight of the evaluation is given to excellence, 30% of impact, and 20% on implementation. Last one, part B2, is the curriculum vitae and info on beneficiary and also like professor and all this kind of things. So again, it's a bit of bureaucracy. There is a guidance. It's not that important. Let's say the most important one, the thing is, I mean, part B2 is actually supporting the B1. Okay, because in B1, if you say, okay, I am a theoretician and I want to do experiment, and then you have a curriculum that proves that you are not a theoretician, they will realize. But the important one for evaluation is B1, okay? Budget, that is important. So that means, let's say, the amount of money that you get, your institution will get, and also what you will get to do your science, okay? So here, let's say, is composed of different like sections. The first one is living allowance, that is around 6,000 euros, okay? That is the amount of money per month that European Commission is giving to your institution, okay? Later on, I will like kind of define a bit better like what all this number means. Then you get a kind of additional contribution. Let's say this first living allowance depends on the country. If you go to a country where life is more expensive, you get a bit more. In Italy or Spain, you will get a bit less. You get an additional bonus for all of you, or all the people that apply, simply because they know that you needed maybe to leave your family, leave your friends, leave your country, and they want to give you some extra money because you will need to find a new house, new friends, whatever. And you can also get another section that depends on your family, okay? So if you have a partner, and you should be married, of course, or you have children, then you can get, again, an additional like part of the money per month that sum up until 660. Then you get 1,000 per month. That means 24,000 for 24 months project. And that seems a lot, but it's not actually a lot because that needs to pay for everything you do. So conferences, open access, consumables. You can also use consumables from the lab. But let's say whatever it's related to your project need to be paid out from here. And I mean, open access can already count for maybe 4, 5, 10,000 euros. So you see that 24,000 is not much. You need to manage it a bit. And then basically this 650 per month goes to the beneficiary. So if you apply with Polito, it goes to Polito, okay? Let's see my specific case, okay? So my specific case, this is from my grant agreement. So you see that there are 2 lines that are empty. These are the lines of EPFL and Tegin. They are not getting any money out of the projects. I mean, I'm going there, I'm paid by Polito, so they don't need to pay me. If I need to do things, they will kind of offer their own consumables and instruments. So basically, they don't get any benefit apart from the science that you will bring also to them, okay? And you see again that in my case, living allowance, salary, okay? Mobility allowance is this additional part because I needed to relocate in a country. Then family allowance for me, 0, because I'm not married, neither I have children. And then there are these 2 like additional sections that depends of like if you kind of leave academia before, or like if you have special needs. Again, that was not my case. Then 24,000 for all these activities that I mentioned before. And then this 15,600 goes to Polito, okay? So that is also another good point, because of course, I mean, this is just kind of paying the support that Polito will give you in 2 years, and also the fact that you will use instruments. But if you win such a call, you also kind of do something that some politician in Italy likes a lot, so to bring European money to Italy, okay? You see, per month in total will sum up around 7,000. That is not all your salary, as I mentioned. But in a very frank way, I'll do something that my mom will never like, because, you know, in Italy, they always say, no, never share salaries, but I will do. So in Italy, like a Marie Curie postdoc is so far defined as an assegno di ricerca. That means that you will pay really low amount of taxes, just basically something for the retirement to IMSS. So that actually means that Marie Curie in Italy, one of the most competitive in Europe, because in all the other countries in Europe, like you don't have an assegno, you have a kind of like real job, and so you pay more taxes. In the case of Polito, it's not, so you get around 4,000 per month net. And here I'm very frank. So if some of you apply, then you know, okay? That may change, because if it's not anymore an assegno, you will need to pay more taxes, but so far it's like this. Okay, then here it's a bunch of useful materials. I will not discuss them, but I will leave the slide so you can later check. And this one instead is about the additional information about, let's say, all the code. Other people will tell you better, and actually like Rimin, the Rimin Marie Curie section like of Polito, let's say the support area, will help you much more than me because they are the expert there. And here you have the email, okay? Of course, they give support mainly to people that want to apply with Polito, but I'm sure that if you write them, they will help you anyway, okay? And as was mentioned before, I'm the one that won after 2 times and starting as a reserve. Here instead you have Eleonora and Sara. They both had a Marie Curie here at DISAT. Eleonora just finished it and got it in 2021, first time. So basically we're doing it together. She got it, I didn't. And Sara got it the second year and she got it also directly, okay? So basically from one side, I can have the best experience of some of the things because I tried it 2 times and also I was a reserve. But if you want to see a proposal, their proposal should be better than mine because they got it the first time, okay? Here I'm moving to very quickly some general aspect, but way more about my own case, okay? So first things, somebody will tell you never try that because to win a Marie Curie is impossible. It's not really the case. You can see here the European and the global. Okay, these are the statistics from the like overall European Commission side. So you see that the funded like sum up until like 1,000 for the European and 100 for the global. And you see that the success rate is slightly better for the global because there are less people that actually want to do it for 3 years and also wants to leave Europe. Okay. Another important point is the percentage of proposals that are beyond 70. That is the one that let you resubmit it the next year. And you can see that it's pretty high. So again, it's a competitive call, it's not impossible. A lot of people manage to do something that is very good. Okay. I also want to show 2 cases. This is the place where I was before, ICQ. So this is a very tiny research institute, maximum 300 researchers. And you can see that like in many years, they had a kind of high number anyway. And like for their budget was really important. They had a budget around 10, 15 million euros, and they were getting 2 million out of European money for Marie Curie, is not bad. That is the case of Polito, okay? You can see that the success rate of Polito is actually higher than the Europeans, so we are actually good in presenting it. But from the other side, I really think that we have room of improvement because, you know, I kind of scale this graph for the amount of researcher we have. And you can see that we are good, we are better than ICQ, but we could be way better. Okay, that's why I think it was important, like event like today, because it's all about trying at one point. Okay, more proposal we submit, since I would say that the quality of science here is very high, more probability to win we will have. Okay, now just to kind of make it a bit more like relaxed, I have a question for all of you. Okay, so here I'm going to like show 2 different research profile. One you see it here, the other one is here. Okay, on the left you see that about paper, the only like very impactful one was a JAX paper. Okay, and this was actually my own papers, like when I tried. So that means like Nature Catalysis, another JAX, another ACS. And I want to know from you, like who think was the best among these 2? Who got the highest like score? Just say left or right. Okay, and you know what? Everybody's saying indeed the papers are important. For the Marie Curie paper are not that important. So the one on the left was for a very good friend of mine. He got it the first time, 97, okay? 0 secondment. This was my first attempt, 86.40, 1 secondment, I get less. That is because what is really important is the, let's say, excellence of your proposal. European Commission do care about your CV, but they don't really care about how many publications you have. Because at the end, if your proposal is not excellent, you may also have so many good publications, but that doesn't mean that your science will be equally good. Okay, so that I just wanted to say that because I also saw Marie Curie with just one paper, okay, published. So it's not that you need to have 10, 20 papers and all very high impact factor to pass it. No, okay. Second, it's really important in general. Yeah. Just about the impact factor. Okay, that's not my metrics, but okay, maybe some of you don't know. But generally, I mean, a lot of people will say that in science it's important to have a lot of paper, a lot of citation. In many courses, that may be important. For the Marie Curie, is not that important. Okay, so that's just what I meant. That which paper you publish in, or how many you publish for the Marie Curie is not important. The important point is that your own proposal that you're presenting is good. Okay, hope it's clear. Yeah, that proposal. That's exactly the point. Like this B1 needs to be, it's the important point, not the publication. Exactly. Okay. So indeed, it's important also, that's another general aspect, it's important to fully exploit the limits. So this is my first proposal, sure CO2. This is my second one. First one, I had some feedback from, let's say, the support, but not so, I would say, well, they were all useful, but not so much about the template. Second one, Polito paid a consultant agency. And basically, this consultant was telling me, you know, you have a lot of empty space. Doesn't make any sense. You can fully like occupy that. And you see that in the second proposal, I actually wrote 2 pages more. And you can see that over 10 pages, if you can use another additional 2 pages, that makes a lot of difference. Okay, so that's 20%. Then here you have a summary about the scores that I got. So as I mentioned, like they are giving up to 5 for each of the sections. And then they are weighting this score 50 for excellence, 30 for impacts, 20 for implementation. Okay. And you can see that actually Super CO2 was a bit better, like in excellence and impact. Although in impact, I had less pages because it's not important to write much, but it's important to write good things. Okay. And now I'm going, okay, I didn't mention, but if you want to have a look about like proposals or evaluation reports, I'm happy to send it to you. Okay, you just need to ask me by mail and I will have the email at the end of the slide. So I'll now quickly go over the sections. So excellence, okay, here you have 5 pages. Here it's very important to claim your expertise. That is exactly what I mentioned before. It's not that important that you summarize all your papers, but you need to show that you have something new that help you to, let's say, present this proposal. And from the other side, you need to show that you know very well the state of the art. And you can summarize it. Because if you know very well the state of the art, then you can present something that is innovative. Okay. This is again sure CO2. Like the reviewers were actually telling me, look, this is a bit too eclectic, that's brief. And again, I had the idea for Super CO2 just to be way more concise and also to add a table, okay? A table where I was saying, okay, these are the other European projects that you funded. That is what they're doing. That is what I'm doing. That is, let's say, something more than what they have done so far. Then it's important, since you need to do something that you don't know, that you need to be specific. Again, this is Sure CO2. And they were actually complaining because they were telling me, okay, but you are a theoretician doing experiment. You are not clearly describing how you're going to learn to do experiments. You are not defining like training in research equipment. You will need to use things. I want to see how, okay? Then you need to be specific about what you do. Here again, that is a Super CO2. So that is the one that I got. But if you remember, I got 4.60. I didn't get 5. And one of the reasons, because they were saying, okay, you are very general. How I can trust you that you will be able to synthesize things if you don't even know how properly to describe those, okay? And again, that is important to get support from your own institution, because maybe you just don't know, as it was in my case. Then you need to be specific what you bring, because as I said, it's all about like this knowledge transfer. You to your institution to you. So first case, sure CO2, they were saying that like this transfer, it was not clear. In the second case, I put it in green because it was a positive point, because in the evaluation report, they don't just say bad things, they also say good things, okay? So basically here they were saying, okay, it's clear, you are a theoretician, you will bring like your expertise in fundamental understanding, and instead you will learn how to do experiment. Then it's important, as I mentioned, just to use tables. That was very helpful to me. First proposal, no tables. Second proposal, couple of tables, and it was helpful. Because here for the research training networking activities, again, I was just defining and differentiating between Polito and PFL Tegin, okay? And that was really clear. It's also important, I mean, you need to be ambitious, but it's also important to be fair. At the end, you have 24,000 euros to pay for everything. So you cannot say, okay, I will do every month to USA to do the best conference ever, because at one point the money will not be enough. Now we move to impact, okay? You have 3 pages here. I mean, I keep saying 5, 3, 2 pages. You can, I mean, there is not a fixed template about that. You can also do 9 pages about excellence and then 1 and 1. But probably that is not going to be accepted or let's say considered very well, okay? So 30% in impact, you have 3 pages. Again, here I just use another table, okay? Because they were saying in the first proposal, I mean, like, it's not really clear how you're going to present the things. And again, I just differentiated between dissemination. Dissemination means conferences, let's say in the language that the European Commission is using. Exploitation means that you need to publish papers, okay? And then communication is just about doing outreach activities, okay? That is also very important. They are paying a lot of money also because they want you to communicate science to people around. You need to be fair, okay? So in my impact section, I was like saying that with my works as a theoretician doing experiment, I would have changed many things. And of course, they were saying, look, that's not really clear, neither sure that you're going to do it in just 2 years, okay? So in the second like proposal, I just tried to be more specific and it works. Then, like in my Super CO2, they were complaining about this, that I was not clear about what I was going to do. And you can see that, for instance, say that I was going to explain science. Okay, like science is very broad. Maybe it makes more sense to be more specific, okay? And it's important also to be fair. That is something that they told me at ICQ. Because, like in my case, it was easy to do outreach in Italy because I'm Italian, I know Italian. If you do, let's say, maybe you want a Marie Curie in Czech Republic and you are Italian and you don't speak Czech. Maybe you need to say, look, I'm going to do outreach activities. Maybe I will learn Czech first because people will read and say, okay, but how are you going to speak to people like every day if you don't speak Czech, okay? Implementation, 20% 2 pages, and that we are reaching the end, let's say. They will ask you to prepare a Gantt chart. A Gantt chart is basically like a chart that is kind of explaining for each month which activity you do. And you should use these overlaps like in a kind of smart way, because if you just make a lot of tasks that are overlapping, since you are alone doing this, they will again think that you will not be able to do that, okay? In my case, and that was the improvement for first proposal, was important to state that you needed these initial 2 months for initial training, okay? Because again, they were saying, okay, you never did experiments, you arrive there, first day you do experiments, not going to be the case. And even if you know how to do, it's still important to have this initial period, because at the end you are going to a new place, you need to learn where experiments are, you need to know how to discuss with your supervisor, that needs time, okay? So it's important that you take enough time at the beginning. Again, they will ask you to add mitigation actions. That means since it's a very ambitious project, there will be problems. And you need to tell me how you think you will tackle these problems, okay? And it's important to know very well what is a contingency plan. A contingency plan is kind of finding solution, or at least seeing where you can see solutions. And you can see that they were actually, again, from improving from Sure CO2, I decided to use another table. I'm not saying that you should use table. It depends on you. My friends that got with 97 didn't use a single table, okay? But to me, it was helpful. And again, they were complaining because I said that as a contingency plan, I could just collaborate with other like sister projects. Yeah, okay, that can work. But from the other side, it's way more like it's better maybe to write, okay, I will go to visit this university where I know there is the expert. They will ask you also to define deliverables and milestones. That is something that they do because they want you to learn how to do it, as in every other European project. So you need to be very specific. But from the other side, you shouldn't worry too much, because this is the proposal. This was mandatory to put in my grant agreement. So the data management plan, that is how you will manage the data that you produce. Career development plan, that where you actually need just to state which conference you're going and these kind of things. And then the communication dissemination plan, that is the plan about the conferences, the articles, and other things. So you see, I wrote 9 deliverables, and actually the only 3 needed were 3. Okay, so it's important to write them because they need to see that you know how to structure your plan. But don't worry that they need to be very realistic, because you will not use them if you get the Marie Curie. Same for the milestone. It's important to write them, but actually I don't have a single milestone. Okay, so again, don't worry too much about the time. Okay, we are approaching the end, just because I didn't want to kill all of you with such a long talk. It was still pretty long. This is this section is about some take-home messages. And then, of course, if you have some more specific question, we can discuss later, or also like we can get a coffee whenever you want. So take-home messages. It's important that you be specific and also be yourself. That's your idea. So you need to bring something new, and it's all about you. Everywhere you go, supervisor will be busy. So if they don't have much time to supervise, to review 10,000 times your project, is not their job in that moment. I mean, they will for sure revise 1, 2, but they are not the one that need to check your typos. So for that, it's important that you just ask friends, colleagues, because sometimes, and actually, even if there are colleagues that are not working exactly in your field, even better, because they can give you an additional point of view. It's also important, if your supervisor maybe never got a Marie Curie before, that you ask around for additional supervision, because that is a very specific call. And maybe a person that is getting 10,000 other also European projects is not the best in writing this specific one. So in case your supervisor doesn't have a strong track of records, also you can ask around, maybe previous supervisor, or again, like colleagues that want a Marie Curie. You learn a lot of new things, so you need to know how to describe them. And if they're not your topic, as in my case, you need to get help. And then, science in general is international, so it's important to be international. I'm pretty sure that one of the reasons why my first and second proposal were evaluated differently is because my first one was all about Italy, and the second was more about Europe. At the end, these are European money, so I don't think that in general they are very happy to just give money like to Polito and to the Nora. Maybe just to Polito, it's okay. I mean, just to the university makes sense. But if you want to do an additional secondment, maybe it makes sense to do it in another place that is not the country where you'll do. Last point, if you have industries, make sure that you discuss IP well in advance. And that's very important if the company is very big, okay? One of the reasons why my first proposal was very hard is that actually, like, I've been discussing with the Nora 2-3 months before to get a support letter, because it was needed to kind of have a job placement there inside the Marie Curie, not a secondment. And we have been discussing with that for a few weeks until Monday, before the end of the call, and the deadline was on Tuesday. I got the email that they were not going to support, like to give me this support letter. So in 24 hours, I needed to change completely my proposal, like removing job secondment, including the Nora's, removing job placement, including it as secondment. It was a nightmare, and I didn't pass it, okay? So if you have company, discuss it advance, because if there are, like, let's say universities or research institute, usually there is room to talk later, but with companies, not always the case. And if they are multinational, usually they have a lot of different phases and different people that need to, let's say, be involved, so that takes time. One of the last slide, that's about benefit and drawbacks of doing a Marie Curie. So one of the big benefits is that you get 2 or 3 years of economic stability, because at the end, like, it's a lot of money, mostly if you do science in Italy, like, and you are not a professor. Then you get to, let's say, try your own idea, and that's good by default. You get to be very independent. You get to learn. And it's also a bit easier to travel because you have your own budget. You need to think about that. Indeed, your supervisor need to agree about your choices, but at least they are your money, so you decide how to use them, or at least you can propose. So one of the drawback, and that's, again, I focus it in Italy, it's important that you discuss about the future before. I mean, don't take for granted that if you get a Marie Curie, then that's the best, then the day after you are a professor. Because as I say, nowadays a Marie Curie is an assegno di ricerca, it's not a RTDA, okay? So it may be that people in the group evaluate it, or maybe that there is not room for that. And in that case, I think it's better if you discuss it before, because otherwise later can be a bit bad if you just realize. Since it's your own idea, may not work. So you need to be, let's say, careful about that, because it's not going to be easy. You may also feel alone because it's your own project. So you're not anymore a PhD. I mean, you are still in a group, people will help you, but at the end, you are the person that write the things. And you are the person that is supposed to know how to face the things. You will get a lot of support, but at the end, it's your own project. You may have big changes because at the end, you may need to go to a new country. So that means that maybe for your partner, it's not the best, for your family, for friends. So you also need to be prepared about that. Last thing, you need to be patient, okay? Because as I mentioned, like in June, there was a moment, June 2023, where I was in the reserve list of the Marie Curie. And I also tried another call that is just here in Turin, that is Trapezio. I will give you details after. And basically, I was also there in the reserve list, okay? And again, Trapezio is a call that you can apply if you get the seal of excellence. So I got in the reserve list just because of my seal of excellence of 2021. And basically, after a couple of weeks, first, I was notified by the European Commission that my proposal was good. So basically, I was not a reserve anymore. And then, like you see, 2 weeks after, I got also funded by Trapezio. Then I needed to choose for one of them. But still, if you do a Marie Curie here at Polito, can be a really good opportunity also because of this Trapezio funding, okay? And I actually double checked. Now there is a deadline for the 30th of May 2025. So the people that applied last year, if they have a seal of excellence, can try this. And otherwise, I checked, and in their budget, they also have money for the 2026. So for people like you that maybe want to try for next year, you will have the chance not to have a Marie Curie, but to have a Trapezio call that is giving exactly the same money, and you can do exactly the same project. So it's all about calling it Marie Curie or not, but at the end, if you can do exactly the things, I don't think it doesn't change much. Last things, good luck. And then, of course, I need to thank Simelys, because that was her idea of me trying the Marie Curie, and finally it works. Then I got a lot of support from the Marie Curie office. So Sara Rollino, and at the time also Lisa Pasquini, that is not working there anymore, is working in another office here at Polito. Then also Raffaella Bonsanti, Professor Bonsanti at EPFL, and Dr. Scouten, teaching materials that were also supporting me because of the secondments. As I said, that's my email. I'm always available to discuss. And then I think now it's time for the questions, no? I mean, my own questions, if you have questions. But then, yeah, there is a QR code. And the Commissione Progetti has prepared a few very quick questions. And yeah, I wanted to answer this before, and then I can answer your own. Okay, we can have this deal. Okay, and if you have some general question, and yeah. No. I saw the proposals because let's say at ICQ, the place where I was, they was giving like support also for people that wanted to do Marie Curie in other places. So I had the chance to see other two proposals that were funded. And I would say that for who of you that want to do that, is important to read at least one proposal, because otherwise, also because usually, I mean, each proposal is different. So there is no way you can get, let's say, you can get to steal ideas from others, because I mean, it's very general, but at least you get to know how you should structure the things. Yeah. Okay.
Right? Or it's more about to have a good idea and focus on how to reach that, structure the project, the companies,
I would say indeed that it's more important to have the structure than the idea. I mean, if you have a very, because this Marie Curie is not an ERC, neither like a project with 10,000, well, 10,000, no, with 10 university, okay? That's basically a project that the European Commission is using to like make the new scientist of tomorrow. So they want you to learn. And so you need to have a good structures and let's say to have everything that is good enough so that you can learn something out. I mean, they don't want you to have the idea so that after 2 years you have 10 patents, 20 articles. That is not so important. I mean, if that happens, way better, but if not, not really a problem. What is important that you learn something new. Because basically the idea is that after the Marie Curie, then you are ready to write the ERC or to apply for a professorship position. So you need to have all the skills. And I would say it's not too important that you have all these articles. I mean, you can do it later. Okay. I think, yeah. So I think Eleonora will be able to answer better than me because she's been finishing now. And so she's working on that for sure. As far as I know, it's a pretty easy thing, at least from our side. Then I don't know how it's easy to like for all these economic things, but luckily it's not the job of us as scientists. But as far as I know, it's basically you just need to write a big report where you define like all the activities that you did for conferences, you list the number of like papers you have. And I never heard of a single person failing a Marie Curie. Because as I say, I mean, it's not about like the results, but about your knowledge. And I mean, if you give money to a scientist, he will learn for sure. Because maybe you spend 2 years failing everything, but at least you learn how to do things, right? Things that you didn't know. Yeah. Yes. Well, you need a supervisor because without a supervisor, you can do it. Indeed, in the case of the trapezio, is way more centered on the professor, indeed, because this communication was actually got by Simelys, my professor, not by me. In the case of the European Commission, is the other way around. I mean, you get the email because you are the PI of your project for the European Commission, okay? And from the other side, supervisor, of course, support you in the idea. There are other places. I was lucky, actually, because this project was, let's say, was born with a good collaboration between me and Simelys. So of course, like need to be kind of like thought for the place where I was, so for Polito, but there were a lot of my ideas inside. I know also that there are other places where it's all the job of supervisor, okay? So the supervisor has a good project and is just telling you, okay, you want to do this, you do this, I help you to write it. There are even supervisors that co-write a proposal. I think that usually or I like more if the idea is coming from the person. So usually, let's say in my own case, we had several meetings with Simelys because, of course, we wanted to discuss the things. There was a strong help on the experimental sections because, I mean, I didn't know anything about that. Okay, but from the other side, you also need to be aware that to write it, in principle, is not the job of the supervisor because it doesn't have time, he or she doesn't have time, and also is your own proposal. I mean, you are the one that is getting the best benefit out of it. Like the supervisor is getting the possibility of having a good scientist in the group. Polito is getting some money, but from the other side, a lot of good things are going directly to the research. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so the first time I started writing it in the summer, okay? Actually June, July also, but because there was a time where I was also writing the thesis, so I was kind of, well, I mean, I was already finished with my thesis, but I was writing a lot of articles, so I was in this writing mindset, but I would say that is the first thing that you write, it's better to start a bit in advance. So, yeah. Yeah, important point is to think about the idea. So first you think about ideas and about the overall structure, and then you start writing. Because at the end, what is important is also to have like the contact with the company, to know that they will help you, they will provide information. So first you tackle this and then you start writing. Because if you have all the information and also the writing process is way easier. Any more questions? Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What would be the reference from the site? It is about to get an option or going in the academic position with not going for the related.
Yeah, that's really personal, I would say. Yeah, that's an important point because, as I say, you have a lot of benefit, but this Marie Curie is also kind of like parallel pathways, I would say, in every place you go, apart from Italy, because at the end, every country has its own procedure, and then you get a Marie Curie that is kind of in between, is not very well understood what it is. So it depends. I would say that if you like traveling or learning something new, or let's say you want to do something by your own, that's really important for your own career. If you have another opportunity that works, then yeah, maybe you can avoid it. And from the other side, remember that you can always refuse a Marie Curie. It's not that if you get the Marie Curie accepted, then the European Commission will chase you like and say, no, now you got it, now you do. There are a lot of people that just resign. So I would say that if it doesn't cost you much time to apply, then you can apply. And then once you have it, then you can decide. I mean, a friend of mine was like, she tried the Marie Curie and then she got a professorship position and she was like, okay, no, I'm going for the professorship, and it makes sense. Yeah.
Under 70, then you're banned from others.
Not forever, but for 1 year. So you need to wait for an additional year and then try. But I would say that if you have enough support and you do it with proper timing, it's really hard to get below 70. No. It was 75 above. Yeah, it's just 25. Yeah, and trust me, like I tried the first time, I didn't know much. I didn't have much time and it was 87. Like I think that if you dedicate enough time, you get more than 70 for sure. Of course, you need to dedicate and also to have support. I mean, if you do it by yourself, then may also not work, but I would say that if you have support, it should work. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Now I want to go to batteries. Because I don't have a background of batteries in my previous experiences. Don't it be a very great change or it's like, well, we should go back or is it okay?
I think it really depends how you can convince them that you can handle it. So it's not, I mean, also this change, it depends on you, because at the end, I would say it's important that you keep something, because if you do something completely new, so in my case, if I was doing battery experiments, maybe in industry, they will say, okay, maybe it's not the best because how can you handle it? But if you already had some experience before, it can also be like way before, but can work. But remember, I mean, what is really important is that you need to learn something new, but also you need to give something. So you should have something to give that the beneficiary doesn't have. Any more? Okay. Otherwise, I mean, I'm here, so we can discuss whenever you want. Yeah, very good. Thank you.
The for family members is a total amount or is by each member of the computer?
No, it's total. So basically okay, now I'm getting it. Yeah, so basically like here is the budget and they kind of scale it depending on what you have. But I think, as far as understood, I mean, if you have a married partner, then you get the maximum. Like I think, and also if you have children,
Yeah.
I mean,
Question is
more. That's the maximum. No, that's the maximum amount. That's the maximum amount. No, otherwise. No, that's a good. No, makes sense. No, this is the maximum amount you can get. Okay. So if it's okay, I recorded it so that other people can later see it. And I mean, I'm always here. You have my email, so we can discuss whatever you want. Okay. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening. Yeah.
Fantastico, è stato
Sì,
molto interessante.
molto piacere. Ho stoppato, non siamo fuori. Sì. Ah, no, no, è vero.
Sì, no, per chiudere
Esatto. Sì.